In episode 67, iPiffle on the problem of free will and the doctrine of hell. Other philosophical theorists who are warier of God's retribution argue that the sins humans commit is not God's fault. They harken back to the fall of man inside the Garden of Eden. This theory mitigates the problem of hell and reduces it down to another widely debated theist debate, the problem of free will, which calls into question whether man truly possesses the free will to make his own choices unimpeded. Do we really possess free will, or are our choices we make in life caused and affected by other things such as our individual life experiences, our brain chemistry, and our cognitive abilities? The Egyptians, Romans, and many other cultures incorporated imprisonment, torture, and barbarous acts of punishment as part of their system of justice. Romans employed crucifixion as the ultimate cruelty. The Egyptians were equally as cruel in their punishments, and an example being inflicting what has been called the desert sun death. These actions were designed to be both inhumane and merciless for a reason: to frighten others from committing crimes against the state and to punish transgressors. Knowing these methods to be effective deterrents, it is understandable that religions of that era would also seek to incorporate the concept of hell into their doctrines, primarily for the same reason: to frighten their followers into submitting to the dictates of their religious leaders. Modern scholars have found the concept of hell to be consistent with what those societies of that period, or around the time of Jesus Christ, believed about social justice. Offering their followers escape from the confines of hell served as an effective motivator that Christianity and other religions could exploit to gain followers and keep them aligned with the dictates of the church. Another issue that scholars have raised with the doctrine of hell is how to reconcile hell's very existence, which is a stark contradiction to the omnibenevolence of God and his proclaimed infinite mercy. They pose the dilemma of why would a benevolent deity create for mankind an eternal existence which is so vile? There would be no need to punish men for their sins if they were not ever permitted to sin in the first place. Through God's grace, he could surely find a way to prevent man from sinning without taking away his free will. God could do this by converting the hearts of men away from the temptation of sin, while still leaving humans the freedom to make morally sound decisions. Also, an omniscient God would already know beforehand which souls are destined to make bad choices and turn against God's teachings. That being the case, then prior to the creation of such a soul, an omnipotent God would have the ability to employ his own free will in not creating human souls that he knows would choose to embrace sinful actions and thereby place themselves in jeopardy of being damned to an eternity spent in hell. Marilyn McCord Adams, a modern-day critic of the doctrine of hell, claims that even if people place their own selves into hell based on the choices they make during their lives, it is both unconscionable and unreasonable for God to give such imperfect and ill-conceived creatures as humans the responsibility for their eternal destinies. All individuals are flawed to varying degrees, and many people are mentally incapable of making correct choices. Why then would God condemn any man to hell? So then, one might ask, what fate should befall a man who is in possession of all his mental faculties and still he chooses to reject God during his lifetime and commits many grave sins? Out of respect for the person's autonomy, shouldn't a just God allow him the free will to make bad choices and condemn his own self to hell? This is a complicated question because it implies that all souls are given an equal chance in life, which isn't the case, since some souls seem to be placed within bodies of people who obviously have mental impairments and other physical disadvantages. Because of this, it is the mortal body in conjunction with the mind that the soul inhabits, which determines the worthiness, or is it the worthiness of the soul that determines the quality of the body and mind it is placed into? If God really were to demand of a man that he either live a righteous life and enter heaven, or reject it and be sent to hell, wouldn't this fact make God out to be unjust? The same could also be said of Jesus Christ. For him to decree, "You must accept me as your Savior," as the determinant of what will become of your eternal soul, isn't this more compatible with the edict of a benevolent deity? This type of religious dogma is often perceived as a scare tactic and not in keeping with the conception of a just and benevolent God. Thank you for listening. I hope you will join me in my next video.